Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Saturday, November 22nd. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 661 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you as always for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are previewing the New York Jets Week 12 matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, as it is the 2-8 New York Jets, 1-3 on the road this season, facing off against a 5-5 Ravens team, 2-3 at home this year. 1 p.m. Eastern, CBS, as we always do. We'll break down all angles of this matchup, Jets offense versus Ravens defense. We'll dive into the Jets defense against the Ravens offense, some matchups to watch, my prediction coming at the end of today's episode. We'll obviously start things up here with the injury report and just some opening thoughts, and that's where we'll begin today's episode. Feels like it's been a little bit since the New York Jets have played a football game, because it has been. They've got some extra rest coming off of last week's Thursday night game against the New England Patriots, and we see what this team looks like the final 7 games remaining in this 2025 season. When you look at some of the odds and some of the other numbers heading into this game, before I give you my overall thoughts and just general feelings as we head into tomorrow afternoon showdown, the New York Jets come into this one 13.5-point underdog. So they are a massive road underdog. Ravens, the big home favorites. Over under for this one set at 44.5. ESPN Analytics matchup predictors giving the Ravens a 81.6% chance of winning, and the New York Jets an 18.3% chance of winning. So rightfully so, the New York Jets on the road, AFC North opponent, 2-8 on the season, quarterback change this week, all of those factors coming off of a loss on Thursday Night Football. Ravens 4 straight wins, hot team right now. You can understand why the New York Jets come into this game as a massive underdog. And that's where I want to begin, is both these teams are kind of heading in different directions this season, right? This is a New York Jets team that, of course, started the year 0-7, won 2 games in a row, beat the Bengals, beat the Browns with the bye week in between, came out of that Browns game short week, went up to New England, couldn't get it done, to fall to 2-8 on the season with the Patriots, now make a quarterback change. And from the Ravens perspective, from the Jets standpoint now, right, you're just looking ahead towards the draft. We'll talk a little bit about Tyrod here and then dive into what to expect in this one. But then from the Ravens perspective, this was a team that started the season poorly, 1-5 on the year, dealt with a lot of injuries, but overall poor defensively. Lamar gets hurt. Offense wasn't putting up the production without Lamar, which is obviously expected when you lose your star quarterback. You start the year 1-5. You go into your bye week. Lamar gets healthy. Team starts to get healthy after that Bears game coming out of the bye week, and you've now routed off 4 straight wins, and they're now 5-5, right in the mix in the AFC North and right in the mix in the AFC playoff picture. So they have flipped their season from what looked like a disastrous 2025 campaign, or at least a potential to be a disastrous 2025 campaign, has turned quickly into another season where the Ravens are primed to make a push at the playoffs and primed to make a push at the AFC North in these final 7 weeks. Now, of course, the big news this week from the Jets standpoint, as we shift the focus back to them here, was the Tyrod Taylor decision. New York Jets, Aaron Glenn, bench Justin Fields. Tyrod Taylor, the starting quarterback, long overdue. I think you should have expected this. Not too much of a surprise, especially after Glenn's comments on Friday, the morning after the Patriots game, where he gave the classic coach response of, we're evaluating everything. And anytime a head coach says that, that is usually a sign that a change is coming at quarterback in the coming days. And Glenn's handling of the quarterback this season, specifically with the media, has, of course, been very, very strange. It's been odd, a couple weeks in a row where he didn't reveal a starter. But really, when you look at the whole Tyrod thing and the whole quarterback situation in general, Tyrod was slated to be the starter against the Bengals. He hurt his knee that week in practice, wasn't healthy enough to play, so you start Fields. Fields plays really well. You go into the bye week. They win that game 39-38. You weren't going to then bench Fields against the Browns, so they played Fields against the Browns, and while he didn't play well, they found a way to win, and you can understand, while I disagree, I still think Tyrod should have been out there on Thursday night, even after halftime. He should have seen play time in that game with the way things were going offensively. It doesn't matter. They lost the game. That's in their rear view, and he's now starting this week. But short week, Tyrod, wait for him to be 100%, get a couple extra days coming off that Patriots game. Fields didn't look good again. Now you make the change at quarterback, and it needed to be made, because this is not so much from the, oh, Tyrod Taylor's going to take the Jets and win 7 games in a row. They're going to win 9 games. They're going to sneak into the 7th wild card in the AFC. No. Nobody's saying that Tyrod Taylor's the answer. Nobody's saying that. That's not the reason you switch to Tyrod Taylor. Sure, does he give you a better chance to win? Definitely. Does he give you a great chance to win? No, it's Tyrod Taylor. He's no elite quarterback. He's an okay backup, but he's an improvement over Justin Fields, who, let's be frank, from a passing standpoint, is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL and has been that way throughout his career, and he's gotten worse as the year went on. I don't want to continue to crush Fields. To focus more on the Tyrod thing, because we all know what Fields is, but from the Tyrod standpoint, you make the change because you also need to evaluate the rest of this offense. And that's what the rest of this year is about for the New York Jets. It's, what do you have on this team? What do you have in this offense? What do you have at wide receiver? What do you have in Mason Taylor? Finding more about Mason Taylor, seeing more consistency from Mason Taylor. What do you have in A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie, Arian Smith? Can any of those guys emerge with better quarterback play over the next 7 games? And even Tanner Engstrand to a certain extent, because there's been some positives with Tanner Engstrand. There's also been some negatives. And there's been some things that have kind of, from a play calling perspective, guys are open. Fields hasn't been able to hit them. They haven't been able to open up the full playbook, it feels like, with Justin Fields. They haven't stretched the ball downfield much. Fields is very reluctant to throw the ball downfield. He hasn't had that confidence at all this season. So even from evaluating Tanner Engstrand, now you can open up the playbook a little bit, open up the offense. You have more trust in Tyrod Taylor. That was the big thing. They didn't trust Fields to throw deep. When they did, and they asked him to throw deep, he either didn't because they didn't have the confidence, the processing wasn't there, the recognition wasn't there, or he did throw deep and it didn't work. Tyrod's not afraid to throw deep. So you're going to see this offense throw deep a little bit, stretch the field a little bit, take some more chances, take some more risks, and that's going to be a reflection on Tanner Engstrand on how they can move the ball and vertically what they can do, and some of the play calls and guys that were running wide open with Justin Fields. Now you hope Tyrod Taylor, who is a competent backup quarterback that can process a defense, can read the field and hit guys that are open, something that Fields wasn't able to do consistently. So that's what this change is all about, and that's what you want to see. You want to see a quarterback, okay, you have a competent quarterback. Can you get the ball? What do we have in A.D. Mitchell? What do we have in John Mechie? What do we have in Arian Smith? See some more out of Mason Taylor. Let's get Breece Hall more involved in the passing game. That's a direct message to Tanner Engstrand. And open up the playbook a little bit, because you have a quarterback that's not afraid to throw deep. We even saw it in the Panthers game when he came in after halftime. Yeah, he threw 2 interceptions, but they were both deep balls. He's not going to be gun shy at all. So that opens up the door for some different things you can do offensively. That's what this is all about. And it also does give you a better chance of winning. And there is also the standpoint from Glenn that you can't preach to the team accountability, say you're all in with all this stuff, winning, and say to your team that you're giving yourselves the best chance to win and continue to roll Fields out there, because every guy saw in that locker room Fields wasn't it. And that's how you lose a locker room. So that part from Glenn, too, was another reason a change like this was needed. So that's the Tyrod, the quarterback change. And I continue to say it. I think Fields should have played his last game as a Jet. Because the way I view this quarterback position now, Fields is the QB2, but I at some point would elevate Brady Cook to be the QB2 so he gets the QB2 reps in practice. And at some point, the final 2 to 3 games of the season, give Brady Cook an opportunity. Whether that's because Tyrod gets hurt, which he always does, unfortunately, or just if you're 2-10 or 2-12, rather, at that point, why not give Brady Cook an opportunity and see what you have in the UDFA? And maybe you can say, okay, we have a developmental backup for the future, at the very least, right? So keep an eye on that as the weeks go on here. 7 games left in what has been a miserable 2025 season. And what could go wrong on Sunday, right? Baltimore Ravens, 4 straight, run the heck out of the football. Jets don't stop the run. On the road, AFC North, a lot can go wrong in this game, and a lot probably will go wrong. But with that being said, injury report for this one, pretty clean on both sides. Nothing too major. Jets, nobody has been ruled out in this game. The biggest question mark is Kene Nwangu. Missed practice, popped up on the injury report Thursday with a hamstring injury. Did make some progress Friday, was limited, so we'll see if he's out there tomorrow afternoon. Here we go again with Kene Nwangu. Such an elite player when he's on the field, game changer when he's on the field, struggles to stay healthy, and it's been the hamstring that's been nagging him all year. So we'll see what happens there. Marcelino McCrary ball, hamstring, Will McDonald quad, Harrison Phillips foot, all questionable but expected to play. From the Ravens side, only 2 players ruled out. No questionable, no doubtful. Wide receiver Rashad Bateman dealing with an ankle will miss this one, and Keon Martin, cornerback, will miss this one with a rib injury. So let's take a look at the Jets offense matching up against this Ravens defense at M&T Bank Stadium tomorrow in Baltimore, Maryland. Talk about Tyrod Taylor. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. Against the Bucs this season, in his only start this year with the New York Jets, he went 26 of 36, 72.2% completion percentage, 197 yards, 5.5 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 92.0 passer rating, and a 52.0 QBR. They lost that game, of course. Now, you look at Tyrod Taylor and his career, 59 career starts, a career 61.9% completion percentage, 12,633 yards, 6.9 yards per completion, 71 touchdowns, 32 interceptions, an 88.3 passer rating, and a career 28-29-1 record. A little Tyrod Taylor revenge game against the Ravens tomorrow. Once was with the Ravens, spent 4 years back up to Flacco, actually won a Super Bowl with them as the backup. The 6th-round pick out of Virginia Tech back in 2011. Now faces off against his former team here. Is at a young, spry 36 years old rather, for the New York Jets. So those are Tyrod's numbers. Mentioned a lot of it in the open, but stretch the field, throw the ball deep, take some chances, take some risks, run the offense, spread the ball around. This is what it's all about. It's an evaluation. What is Tanner Engstrand with better quarterback play? What are these receivers with better quarterback play? Let's see some more out of Mason Taylor. Had a really good stretch during the middle of the season where he started to play well, and we'll dive more into Mason Taylor here in a second. But with some of the bad quarterback play and just bad offense, last couple weeks has been a little quiet. So get back onto that trend of a solid 6 catches, 70 yards, 8 catches, 9 catches, 70 yards in that area where he can really show you some good things, which he had a stretch there towards the middle of the season. So that's what that's really from the Tyrod Taylor perspective, a lot that needs to be said. Now, just looking at the Jets offense as a whole here, they're 29th in the NFL in total offense, 281.5 yards per game, fifth rushing offense in football, 141.6 yards per game, dead last in the NFL in passing, 139.9 yards per game, and 25th in scoring with about 20.9, so 21 points per game. Ravens defense, 26 total, 354.1 yards per game, 20th against the run, 121.5 yards per game, 24th passing defense, 232.7 yards per game, and the 23rd ranked scoring defense, 25.1 yards per game. A lot of the Ravens' early season struggles defensively can be attributed to a variety of injuries. Kyle Van Noy missed time, Roquan Smith missed time, Kyle Hamilton missed time, Marlon Humphrey missed time. A lot of big pieces on that defense missed time. And as they've started to get healthier over these last couple of weeks and during this win streak, they've started to play a lot better. And having Lamar Jackson back helps a ton, but the defense has also started to really, really play much better through these last couple games. 16 points allowed against Chicago, 6 against Miami, 19 against Minnesota, 16 against Cleveland. So this is a defense that in all four of these wins have allowed under 20 points. And in fact, over the last 5 games, even when they lost to the Rams going back in week 6, 17-3, they allowed under 20 points. And that was after a start to the season where they let up 40 plus against Buffalo and Cleveland, or rather 40 plus against Buffalo and Houston, and then 35 over against Detroit and Kansas City. So they've started to round into form. You look at the run game in this Jets offense, Breece Hall. Right, this is a Ravens defense that has had some vulnerability earlier in the year from a rushing standpoint, but I look at Breece in this game, got to open up from a receiving standpoint. And you hope that Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, as much as it's not a huge threat, Breece has faced a significantly high amount of stacked boxes, 49.3% stacked box rate this season faced for Breece Hall. He's had success, though, against stacked boxes, but you hope that with Tyrod, a little bit more of a passing threat from your quarterback, that it keeps the defense a little bit more honest. When you look at Breece this season, 152 carries, 722 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns, 15th in carries, 12th in yards, well on his way to well over 1,000 yards, 1,200, 1,300 yard range here for Breece Hall this season. But you got to get him more involved in the pass game, and that's something that I want to see more tomorrow, and that's something that you want to see out of Tanner Engstrand as you evaluate these next 7 games. The use of Breece Hall in the pass game has been slim to none, especially as the season has gone on, which is the opposite of what you want to see. You want to see, as the year goes on, him get more opportunities. Engstrand get him into the game plan more and more, and they haven't done that. You look at his numbers overall, 24 receptions, 33 targets, 226 yards, 9.4 yards per reception and 1 touchdown. So total, he's tallied 948 total yards on 176 total touches, 5.4 yards per touch, and 3 touchdowns. But you look at his targets over the last 5 games, 0 against Denver, 3 against Carolina, 1 against Cincy, 1 against Cleveland, 2 on Thursday night against the Patriots. That's 7 over the last 5 games, total targets. That's 1.4 targets per game. So he's been targeted about once per game over the last 5. That number needs to be way higher. So I look tomorrow, Breece on the ground needs to have a big day, and you hope he can have another big day. But more importantly, you make a quarterback change, 7 games left. Let's see Tanner Engstrand in this offense get Breece Hall, make it a point, make it a priority to get Breece Hall the football. Wheel routes, different things like that. More screens. Execute the screen passes. It's simple. And yet, for whatever reason, the Jets have not done it consistently. Even before this year, we all know how Breece Hall has been misutilized so many times. Tomorrow, Get him more involved. And let's be honest. It's nobody's saying 10 targets, but 7 targets over 5 games, that's ridiculous. Just a little bit more than that. Because right now he's basically a non-factor. The one time he was targeted in that Cleveland game, he takes it all the way to the house for 42 yards. So dangerous. Get him the ball. So that's Breece Hall. And just the consistent targets that he should get over this next 7 weeks. You look at some of the receivers. This trio, these next 7 games are huge. A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie, Arian Smith. Now you look at the wide receiver snap share, and I'll be honest, I've talked about this about every time I think on these preview pods, and I'm just over it. Every week it's Jamal Pritchett, Brandon Smith. Let's see one of those guys active. Let's see one of those guys get an opportunity. It's never going to happen. It just doesn't happen. Allen Lazard's still going to be active for whatever reason, and if he is active, he's not going to play. So you're looking at a wide receiver room that, of course, consists of Mechie, Isaiah Williams, Tyler Johnson, A.D. Mitchell, Arian Smith. And I broke this down on Friday after the Patriots game, and I thought it was interesting the snap share that this wide receiver room had last week. Mechie led the way with 47 snaps. Isaiah Williams had 42. Tyler Johnson had 30. A.D. Mitchell had 28. Arian Smith had 9. So Arian Smith was essentially used as the 5th receiver. A.D. Mitchell was the 4. Mechie was the 1. Now, I expect A.D. Mitchell to be much higher this week. I expect him to potentially even surpass Mechie as the weeks go on because he was just traded. He missed the Browns game because he was only traded, 4 days earlier, didn't have enough time to learn the playbook on Wednesday through Sunday. And in a short week, now gets some extra time here. Mitchell snaps are only going to go up. And he needs to start catching the football, right? A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie, those are the 2 big names to look for. Arian Smith as well. And I want to talk about Arian Smith in a second, but starting with A.D. Mitchell, he had opportunities. He was open. The full A.D. Mitchell experience was on display Thursday night. Jets fans got it. That was always the big thing with A.D. Mitchell that we talked about, and Mechie to a certain extent. Both players, now Mechie played well, but A.D. Mitchell does a great job of getting open. Excellent separation grade. Vertically is a threat. Gets open, but has a problem finishing. And a lot of times with the Colts, it was because he had a terrible quarterback who completed under 50% of his passes in Anthony Richardson. But there were some drops mixed in. And on Thursday, there were some drops mixed in. Now, there was also the bad throws from Fields, but there was some drops from A.D. Mitchell on throws from Fields that should have been caught. He was targeted 6 times, only caught 1 pass for 10 yards. He had 2 drops. That's a 16.6% catch rate. And while you can look at Thursday's game from A.D. Mitchell and say it's a positive from he gets open a ton and you see the potential, you also have to look at it and say, all right, now you got to catch the football. That's the next step. And there was some plays that Fields missed them, no doubt about it. And you hope Tyrod can hit on a couple of those plays this week, and you can see more out of A.D. Mitchell. But these next 7 games are huge. The potential is there for him to be a wide receiver 3 long term. He's just got to finish those plays. And from the John Mechie standpoint, he looked good on Thursday. 3 receptions, 3 targets, caught the touchdown on a little bit of the broken play. 45 yards total, 22-yard touchdown. It was a good day for him. Now, Arian Smith, and you want to continue to see that in Mechie. In a perfect world, Mechie and A.D. Mitchell can be long-term pieces depth-wise in this wide receiver room. We continue to say, can one of those guys be your wide receiver 3 of the future? I think wide receiver 2, expecting that, is pushing a little bit, but can one of them be your wide receiver 3 of the future? The next 7 games are big in that standpoint. Now, Arian Smith's interesting because he only logged 9 snaps in that game. That was 16% of the offensive snaps. So under 20% of the offensive snaps for Arian Smith. And when you look at his production on the year, it's very low, which we all sort of expected. But at this point in the season, without Garrett Wilson, with Josh Reynolds, who is technically your number 2, although that's not saying much, but even Reynolds, who's out, you're down to slim pickings. And Arian Smith barely saw the field on Thursday. And over these last 2 games, hasn't even been targeted. He hasn't been targeted since the Bengals game on that one good 23-yard pass from Justin Fields. That was the biggest play of Arian Smith's young career. He hasn't been targeted in 2 straight weeks. And there have now been 4 games this season where he hasn't been targeted at all. Now, some of that is he's been open and Fields hasn't found him. And you hope that can be Tyrod under center vertically. They can make some plays with Arian Smith. But Justin generally hasn't been targeted much, and he hasn't been involved much in the offense. And that's was expected for a 4th-round track star out of Georgia that had a lot of learning and a lot of improving to do from the wide receiver position. But at this point in the season, you're 2-8. You're down your number 1 receiver. You're down your number 2 receiver. A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie, it's all an evaluation phase with all these guys. I want to see Arian Smith get some more targets here. And to move on with Mason Taylor as well, he has shown some really, really good things this season. And I want to continue to see that. Really good things from Mason Taylor. There was that stretch with Miami, Dallas, where he had 60-plus yards, and then he had the Carolina, the Bengals game. Made some plays on Thursday, 4 catches for 30 yards. Didn't do a whole lot in the Cleveland game. I want to continue to see here over the next 7 that consistent, get that 3 to 4 to 5 catches. Have a couple games where you can get 7 to 8, like you saw against Dallas. He had 5 against Miami for 65, 67 against Dallas. Those type of numbers for Mason Taylor moving forward. 34 receptions so far this season on 48 targets, 276 yards, 8.1 yards per reception, and 1 touchdown so far. Because Mason Taylor continuing to show progress is a big deal going into this offseason where you eventually draft your quarterback. If you can have your number 1 tight end, Garrett Wilson, and maybe A.D. Mitchell or Mechie can turn into your wide receiver 3, and you have a really good offensive line and you can bring Breece Hall back, all of a sudden you start to see still a lot of holes, still a lot of improvement that needs to be done. But you look at some of the foundational pieces and you like where you're at from that standpoint. Armand Membu and Olu as well, to speak of the offensive line. Just go out there and maul tomorrow. Continue to do that. Armand Membu's putting up an incredible season. And really, he's putting up numbers that should have him in the Rookie of the Year conversation. And that's not just me as a Jet fan saying that. And you guys know I'm the furthest thing from a biased green goggles Jet fan. But I think anybody that watches Armand Membu, he really has done things that we have not seen out of rookie offensive tackles. He won't win Rookie of the Year because it's not flashy. Right tackle is not going to happen, but he's at a monster season, and you want to continue to see that roll through here these next 7 games. Moving on to the defensive side of the football for the Jets against this Ravens offense. Jets defense comes into this one 20th in the NFL overall, allowing 329.7 yards per game. 23rd against the run, 130.9 yards per game. 12th against the pass, 198.8 yards per game. And 27th in scoring defense, 26.8 points per game, so about 27. Ravens offensively, despite some of the bumps and the Lamar Jackson injury and even a stretch where Derrick Henry wasn't playing his best football, they still rank out well in 2 categories. Now, they're 21st overall, 322 yards per game. They're still 4th rushing offensive football, so that is still near the top of the league. That's been a staple, of course, for Baltimore over these last couple of seasons. 142 yards per game. Passing, they're 29th, 180 yards per game. Scoring, they're 10th, 25.2. So despite all the struggles, they're still 10th in scoring, 4th in rushing. Passing's been a struggle. A lot of that goes back to the Tyler Huntley and Cooper Rush games. And Lamar hasn't torn up the stat sheet necessarily over these last couple of games. early in the year in those losses where they were putting up points, but the defense wasn't stopping anybody, he was putting up some big games passing, 200 plus yards, near 300. These last couple of games, he's been under 200, but much more of a threat, of course, than what they've been dealing with. And I think you expect Lamar, as the season rolls on, to continue to make the plays that he makes. And you look at Lamar this season, what more needs to be really said about the MVP quarterback? 117 of 172 passes completed this year. That's 68%, 1,442 yards, 8.4 yards per completion, or yards per attempt, rather. 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a 115.5 passer rating, and a 67.1 QBR. Despite missing time, he's still tied for 14th in touchdowns, so top 15, and you expect that number to continue to grow despite missing 3 games. And he has a 67.1 QBR, as I just mentioned, which is 7th in the NFL, so comfortably still inside the top 10. From a rushing standpoint, he's had 39 carries, 226 yards, 5.8 yards per attempt, and 1 touchdown. An elite dual threat quarterback, what he can do through the air with his legs. It's going to be a tough task for this Jets defense, especially a Jets defense that struggles with quarterbacks and their mobility, and a Jets defense that has just been awful this year in so many ways. A defense that's left the middle of the field wide open so many times. I view tomorrow, I can already see it, where pocket collapse and Lamar rolls out on a 3rd and 14, 3rd and 15. And just there's 25 yards of green grass ahead of him. I see that happening a couple times tomorrow. I'm already bracing for it. I'm already preparing for it. So then when it does happen, I'm not going to get angry. I will probably still find a way to get angry, because watching this defense give up 3rd and long after 3rd and long after 3rd and long is one of the most excruciating things that we've gone through this year, which is saying something considering we've had to watch Justin Fields for 9 games. But it's painful. And I'm already preparing myself for that to happen tomorrow, at least once, where it's a 3rd and 15, it's a broken play. The Jets defense, the Jets linebackers are nowhere to be found, and there's just 25 yards of green grass ahead of them. And what should be a punt, Jets get the ball, will turn into probably a Ravens scoring drive. But in all seriousness, we all know what Lamar Jackson brings to the table. Healthy now, 5 straight wins for this team. He had the big 4 touchdown performance against Miami. Last week wasn't great. The 2 picks, under 60% completion percentage, very unlike him. Really the last 2 weeks, under 60%. But this is a Jets secondary that's had some struggles, and it's a big test because A.Z. Thomas back from concussion. What do you get out of Jarvis Brownlee? Brandon Stevens had a really bad game last week. This is a big test for this Jets secondary. Tomorrow's a big game to look for this Jets secondary on how they bounce back. A.Z. Thomas is back. Jarvis Brownlee, that means he moves back into the nickel, specifically for Jarvis Brownlee, because this is a guy that's had 2 really, really horrible games. Penalties, bad coverage. You want to say it's because he's played on the outside? Fine. Now you're back in the nickel. You've got 2 healthy corners next to you. No excuses now. He's got to play better. And Brandon Stevens needs to bounce back. Had a rough start, a couple really good weeks, and a step back last week against New England. So a good challenge for him. And, of course, A.Z. Thomas, who come off the concussion, didn't clear in time, obviously, before that Thursday night game. You see what he can do. And they'll be facing Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is, the big receiving threat on this Baltimore team, having a big season, one of his better years so far, his best season in a lot of areas of his career so far in year number 3, the 22nd overall pick in the 2023 draft out of Boston College, had over 1,000 yards last year, but has turned big numbers in this season, despite the quarterback and the injuries and Huntley and Cooper Rush and Lamar going down and all of that. He's put together a very productive season. 53 catches, tied for 20th in the NFL, 71 targets, 703 yards, 13th in the NFL in yards, 13.3 yards per reception, and 1 touchdown. So coming off of a 1,000-yard season, He's in line to have his second consecutive 1,000-yard season, his second in 3 years. And he's top 15 in yards. He's quietly put himself as one of the better young, more underrated wideouts this season. So good challenge from that standpoint for this Jets secondary. Mark Andrews has found the end zone a couple times, but clearly not the player he was. And this is a Ravens passing attack, receiving attack, I should say, that does lack elite weapons. But Zay Flowers is a player that's done some really good things this season, has by far been their leading receiver in everything, in every category, and their most dangerous player through the air. Now, the big thing is the run game, right? This is a Jets rushing defense. As bad as they've been against the pass, this is a Jets rushing defense that's been horrible. And, it's funny, when this game originally came out on the schedule, this was one of those games where before the season even started, this is going back to May, when I had 7-10 for a very long time. I think even as a lot of Jet fans, we predicted 7-10. Some, even the most positive Jet fans, were probably 8-9, 9-8. 7-10, looking back on it, was a very positive guess. With this team probably maybe only winning a game or two the rest of the year and ending with 3 or 4 wins. So 7 was way too high. And then the most negative Jet fans, or the most down on the record prediction, were 4 to 5 wins. But even with all of that, before the season even started, before we knew this season would be this bad, this was always a game that I circled and said there's no chance the Jets are winning this game, because the Jets stink against the run and the Ravens are just going to run it down their throat. AFC North on the road, no chance it's happening. And I still have that feeling tomorrow, and I still expect that to happen tomorrow. Even if this team was 8-2 right now, you'd probably still feel that, because they're just not good against the run. Everything the Ravens do well, the Jets do not do well on defense, and it makes it a matchup nightmare. And you look at Derrick Henry, you can't not talk about the 4th-ranked rushing offense in football without talking about Derrick Henry, who's putting together another big year. And he's had a little bit of an interesting season. I want to kind of dive into it. This year as a whole, 166 carries, 7th in the NFL. 807 yards, 6th in the NFL. 4.9 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. That's tied for 7th. So comfortably inside the top 10 in touchdowns, carries, and yards. Yards, the biggest stat of those all. Well on his way to another big 1,000-plus yard rushing season, no doubt about it. But it's been an interesting year for Derrick Henry when you break down certain sections of the season, because there has been points where he hasn't looked like the dominant Derrick Henry. Now, you look at week 1 against Buffalo, 41-40, that crazy week 1 game, a contender for game of the year and only week 1, the big comeback from the Bills. In that game, he had 18 carries for 169 yards, 9.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. When you look at his first 5 games, when you look at these numbers, it's perfect that they played an even number of 10 games so far. They've already had their bye week. You look at the first 5 games. Derrick Henry had 64 carries for 317 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. Not great numbers by any means, but more so inflated by the Buffalo game where he had 169 yards. And I think really, when you look at the early part, some of the struggles, I want to take a look at weeks 2 through 5 with Derrick Henry. Weeks 2 through 5. So take away week 1, and you look at that range, weeks 2 through 5, that 4-game stretch. 46 carries, 148 yards, 3.2 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Those are way off normal Derrick Henry numbers. Now you add that with the Buffalo game and you get 317 yards over the first 5, which still isn't the normal Derrick Henry type of numbers. However, you look at the last 5 games and they're back to Derrick Henry numbers. 102 carries, so the carries are way up because they're in these games, they're running the ball, they're having success running the ball, they've got good quarterback play, and they're not rolling out the corpse of Cooper Rush or Tyler Huntley. 102 carries, 490 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. So went from just 317 yards in his first 3 games to now 490 rush yards in his last 5 games. That's almost a 200-yard difference. So he's hot. He's getting hot at the right time for the Ravens. He's finding his rhythm at the right time for the Ravens. And from the Jets' perspective, it's the wrong time if you're still rooting for wins as a Jet fan, which I still am. So that's Derrick Henry in this rushing attack from Baltimore that will continue to be at the top of the league as long as him and Lamar are a partner in that backfield. So defensive line, big test. Kalen Saunders, interested to see if he plays tomorrow. Glenn was non-committal on, he said, we'll see how on Friday's press conference, we'll see how Friday goes. If he can gather the playbook, gather the game plan in time. But Kalen Saunders is another name to keep an eye on. The Jets just pick him up because you look at this roster, you look at where this team's at. It's a lot of evaluating certain players, individuals, seeing what pieces might fit for the future, what pieces don't. Tomorrow will be a big test, though, for this defensive line. Matchups to watch as we kind of get ready to close things out here on this preview pod. Preview number 11 on the season. Tanner Engstrand against this Ravens defense, Tyrod Ravens defense, both of those, right? Those are big things to look for tomorrow, but more specifically, it's the rest of this offense. Nobody's evaluating Tyrod. Tyrod is not here long-term. He's not the future answer, right? What you're more so evaluating is with better quarterback play, what do these receivers look like? Mason Taylor, evaluate Tanner Engstrand and these play calls and some of the things that he's done at least well, it looks like, with a quarterback that hasn't been able to execute the plays. Now you have a quarterback that can, at a competent level, right? Let's see what this offense can do there. So that's mainly the matchups to watch there. Defensively, it's this run defense against Lamar and Derrick Henry. And I look at some of the reps with AZ Thomas and Zay Flowers. That's a matchup that I'm really looking forward to. AZ Thomas is one of the players that it's really tough to walk into these games as a Jet fan. I don't even want to use the word excited to watch them because there is no excitement. They're so bad that these games are so hard to watch, and the offense has been so gross that you'd rather watch paint dry. But over these next 7 games, one player that I am very excited to watch, staying healthy, hopefully, is AZ Thomas. And he's got a good test this week against Zay Flowers. Any of these teams, these other number ones, the reps that he gets to them, it's invaluable experience. Malachi Moore as well. Those are 2 hopefully building blocks you can have for this secondary moving forward for this Jets team. And 2 guys that, if they pan out, look good on Muji's record, which makes you feel a little bit better about the potential in hitting on these future picks, is hoping that guys like Malachi Moore and AZ Thomas can already work out for this Jets team. So excited to see that. And obviously excited to watch Membu. He's a beast, and Brees do some of his things. There's definitely some things there. All in all, though, prediction for this game, I think it's a big Ravens win in terms of just the score. I think they win this one 31-14. So I do think they'll cover plus 13.5 here. I just think the Jets defense is going to have a killer of a time trying to stop this run game. It's not what they do well. They haven't done anything well much defensively this year. They don't force turnovers. Derrick Henry had fumble issues early in the year. Could you maybe force a fumble on Derrick Henry? Is it that hard? Is this a game where the Jets get an interception? Probably not. I really don't think they're going to get an interception all year. And hopefully that's a reverse jinx and they get a pick on Sunday and we witness a miracle. But I think it's going to be a big day for this Ravens offense. So 31-17. I think the Jets offense will put up some points. Not enough. Ravens win. But we'll see how it all plays out. And, of course, we'll be back right after the game on Sunday with my post-game thoughts in our weekly, of course, recap pod. So stay tuned for that. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. What are your big thoughts, big predictions for this game? And any other Jets takes or Jets thoughts you've got, let me know down in the comments section below. Appreciate all of the support as always. And until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.